In my years cooking and making barbecue videos, there are two companies that make thermometers for barbecue that to me stand head and shoulders above the rest. There are two companies that I trust more than all the others, more than Combustion and Meager and Meat Stick. These two are the ones that I have been wanting and kind of wondering, when are they going to come out with their version of a wireless thermometer? I'm a big fan of both of their products, and I'm talking about Thermoworks and Fireboard. Start off by giving you guys a look at the outer packaging for both. They take a little bit of a different approach. For Fireboard, I ordered two Fireboard pulses, and then I also ordered the antenna, and you see that they come in separate boxes. Whereas for Thermoworks, I ordered the kit that comes with two of the RFX meat probes and the gateway, which is their version of the antenna, and that all comes in a single box package. Here's what you get in the Thermoworks package. So again, I got two probes, and each probe comes inside of its own charging case. Here's the gateway. So that's the antenna. Well, actually, this is the gateway, and this is the antenna. So just screw that onto the top. Then you get a charging brick that comes with a USB A to C cable. Then they also include these color-coded rings that you can put on your wireless probes to help you tell them apart. And then what's interesting about Thermoworks is they've taken a different approach than what I've seen all the other wireless thermometers. All of the other wireless thermometers that I have seen measure both the internal temperature of the meat as well as the ambient temperature. And usually, you're going to insert the probe a certain length. It looks like it's indicated here by the sticker. You're going to insert the probe a certain length, and then usually on the tip up here, usually that's where the sensor is to measure the ambient temperature. But Thermoworks is not doing it that way. These wireless probes are intended only to measure the internal temperature of the meat, and then they give you a separate probe, a separate wired probe that you can use to measure the temperature, the ambient temperature inside of your cooking chamber. So that's a different approach. This is the ambient air probe, and then here's the clip that you attach to your grate, and then you run the probe into the clip that way, and you have it, clipped to your grate. So that's a little bit of a different approach. That's what you get with the Thermoworks meat gateway combination. A lot fewer things come on the Fireboard side. I should mention that both Fireboard and Thermoworks do include quick start instructions, a manual guide. Here we've got the probe, the pulse, and it comes in its own charging case. There's a look at the probe outside of the case or right next to the case. And also, the case does have magnets on the back. The Thermoworks also has magnets as well, so both can be attached to your grill or smoker. Here is the S1G antenna, and then you do get also a USB-A to USB-C charging cable. And then here is the S1G antenna, if you choose to get this. And this can connect to a Fireboard drive. It connects to the auxiliary port. So here I've got my, any Fireboard 2 device. So here I've got my Fireboard drive That's the auxiliary port right there. And then let me line this up the way it should be. I guess maybe that's just how it's supposed to look, just like that. And hopefully that will get the job done. Here's a look at the two probes side by side. So this is the Fireboard right here. It kind of has the lollipop at the tip here. And then over here, we've got the Thermoworks. Just from eyeballing it, one thing that kind of catches my attention right away is the Thermoworks appears to be a lot thinner than the Fireboard. And I know a lot of people have these concerns about what type of a hole is going to be left in my meat after I insert the probes. People, I think, generally want a thinner probe than something that's thick. So just from eyeballing it, the Thermoworks, again, looks much thinner. Looking at the back of the box on the Fireboard Pulse, they include some language here that says that the Pulse is the only wireless probe to utilize a hexagonal chisel tip for ease of insertion and minimize the opening left by the probe. So that's the hexagonal chisel tip that they're referring to. Try and give you guys a better look at that. So they're actually saying that this should actually this should help minimize the hole that's left in your meat, even though just from eyeballing it, it kind of looks like it's going to leave a big hole. So that'll be interesting to see when I run these through their paces. Let me go through some of the specifications to give you some more comparison points between the two. So the Fireboard Pulse, wireless connectivity is Bluetooth 5.3 and S1G, and they do recommend that you use the S1G for a greater, better connection. Thermoworks, in their marketing, I think they did make mention of wanting to move away from spotty Bluetooth connection, and then they say that their wireless connectivity is a patent pending industrial radio frequency. So it looks like it's something that's specific to them. Battery life, Fireboard Pulse should last you over 24 hours on a full charge, and it charges to full within 10 minutes. The Thermoworks says that they'll give you 4 days on a full charge. Here's a look at the instructions that you do get with Thermoworks. That's the instructions that you get for the RFX gateway, and then this little foldable, this is what they give you for the RFX meat thermometer. Both probes give you internal temperature range from 14 degrees to 212 degrees Fahrenheit. The external temperature range, Fireboard Pulse, 32 degrees to 662 degrees Fahrenheit. Thermoworks doesn't give you an exact number, and again, they provide you with a wired ambient temperature probe, but I do remember seeing somewhere in their marketing that they touted being able to go up to 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. I think you can see that on their website. Here's a look at the manual that you get with the Fireboard, the quick start guide. It's colorful and it looks like there's more pages. It's just the first 2 pages are dedicated to English, and then as you go through, you get other languages as well. Whereas I think the Thermoworks appears to just be in English, and it does just kind of look a little more sparse. So given these temperature ranges, both should be safe for searing, water resistant. Fireboard Pulse IP67, Thermoworks IP69K. The probe length, Fireboard Pulse says that their probe is 4.34 inches, whereas the Thermoworks says that their probe is 4.69 inches. So I guess Fireboard is only measuring their probe from the tip to right here in order to get that reading. And I guess maybe this is just this tip here. I don't know if the ambient temperature is built in here. Maybe it's where this dark black plastic is. I'm not really sure. Or if it encompasses the entire lollipop, or if that's just a handle. Not really sure. But just from eyeballing it again, it looks like the Fireboard pulse is longer, but they claim to be 4.34 inches to 4.69 for the Thermoworks RFX. Minimum insertion depth. So this one is pretty important to a lot of folks. How far do you have to insert these probes in order to get temperature readings? On the Fireboard pulse, the insertion line is right there next to my finger. And then on the Thermoworks RFX, it's where the sticker is. So it's up here. So eyeballing it, it definitely looks like the pulse doesn't have to be inserted as far as the Thermoworks RFX. And officially, the pulse recommended insertion depth 2.76 inches, Thermoworks 3.15 inches, and then Thermoworks gives you a recommended insertion depth that's even farther, 3.39 inches, whereas the pulse only gives you a minimum recommendation or a minimum insertion length. It doesn't give any other guidance in terms of a recommendation beyond the minimum. This went a little bit further than I thought it would just for this unboxing, but the more I start to look at them and compare them, the more interesting things become. I'm definitely looking forward to testing out and putting to their paces both the Fireboard and the Thermoworks, so that'll be in an upcoming video. Leave a comment. Let me know if you have any additional questions about either one of these wireless probes, and I'll see if I can get the answer for you. Thanks for tuning in. This is Kenyatta Robinson. Take care. I'll see you in the next video.